Rox D Xebec's introduction began with the feat of cutting a mountain and a finger pose similar to Law, and maybe people thought it was like pretty much hiding the power of Law's Delta Fruit and Rox. Kind of ironic since his son just beat Law in a fight and tried to take his Delta Fruit and get the immortality power. And of course, immortality is connected to Immu, and we saw Rox actually met Immu. So there's definitely a lot of interesting things here, especially when it comes to his personality. Like Rox's personality is eerily similar to Blackbeard. His face is the exact carbon copy of Blackbeard. And of course, how young Whitebeard didn't know, like how young Whitebeard was with Rox and his old self didn't know that Teach was related to Rox. A lot of questions I have for Edward Newgate. We also have him, Rox D Xebec, killing a Navy HQ admiral when the old generation were like around pre-timeskip supernova level 56 years ago. He has a unique swordsmanship like a hammer or cannon. He met the king of the world when it comes to Nerona Immu, who sits on the empty throne, Joy Boy's rival from the Void Century. Fox was also inspired by a Davy Jones, a pirate, a legend. We know even in the original Pirates of the Caribbean movies and whatnot, Davy Jones is always a legendary character when it comes to pirate lore, just like Blackbeard. You even hear about Davy Jones's locker, and of course SpongeBob. But yeah, it just definitely, Davy Jones is an actual legendary pirate that I heard about before One Piece. We also seen him conquer his hockey clash with King Harold, where their weapons weren't touching like Roger and Whitebeard. So yeah, there's a lot of hype to this Rox character. Everything Oda just released is just the tip of the iceberg, especially with God Valley lore still needing to be explained. Now, we already knew that Loki looked up to Rox, but with Luffy asking him to join his crew, like asking Loki to join his crew, the same time Rox's face is revealed, and it's the exact same face as Teach, and with Shanks' beef as well with Loki, I think Loki has a strong chance of aiding Blackbeard instead of Luffy. Now, I definitely think for now, Luffy and Loki will be working together in Elbaf, but for that final fight, I wouldn't be surprised if Loki actually switches sides. Now, me personally, I would prefer if Loki stayed with Luffy, but I feel like this face reveal of Rox has definitely caused a major impact in the One Piece story. So let me explain how Rox's lore of the lurking legend has actually lived up to the hype. And you know, when hype is built up, a lot of times it could lead to a disappointment. A lot of people are even comparing it to Kaido's flashback and saying, yeah, Rox's character, who was less built up than Kaido, had a way better flashback. But you have to understand, Rox has so much lore. Like, the reason why he was in Kaido's top 5 for a reason. And I definitely believe the fact that Goku said that he was Roger's greatest rival. Blackbeard having ties to Roger's greatest rival, his father being Roger's greatest rival, just puts Blackbeard's destiny as a top tier final villain. Blackbeard's been disrespected his entire career when it comes to, even when he became a Yonko, everyone was dubbing him the weakest Yonko right away because he was the newest Yonko. So definitely want to say a lot of Blackbeard stocks going up just off of a face being revealed. And that's what you explain One Piece, yo. So many things can change in just an instant. Definitely support the channel, guys. Like, subscribe, turn notification. Banger content is on the way as this video is well edited. There's going to be other well edited videos as well, guys. So stay tuned. Now, when it comes to the wings of legendary pirates, let's be honest here. Zoro and Sanji are pretty much top tier when it comes to Luffy having some monsters under him. Then you look at Roger, the pirate king, and he had Silver's Rayleigh and Scarpa Gabon. Now, Silver's Rayleigh, we know how strong and epic he is. Having even Blackbeard run away when he had Kangasaki coating on his sword, and fighting Kizaru pre-timeskip. But Scarpa Gabon, what he's shown on Elbaf is insane, with damaging these holy knights that seem to be immortal with his Kangasaki coating. Yeah, Gabon is legit, and these wings of the former pirate king who passed away are legit as well. But knowing Rox had Whitebeard, the world's strongest man, a man who rivaled Roger. Like, he in his prime, he went 3 days fighting Roger. That's who Rox had as his right hand man. I think that's the greatest right hand man in the One Piece story. And then you look at his left hand and he has Shiki, a man who destroyed Marineford. It took on Garp and Sengoku. Took on Roger during the Ed War. Shiki is, in a sense, one of the Yonkos from the past before the Great Pirate Era started. Like, it was, when it comes to Roger, Whitebeard, Shiki, and Big Mom, those would be the Yonko of that time. So that's who he had on his wings, where characters like Big Mom and Kaido wouldn't even be considered wings of Rox. That's how powerful Whitebeard and Shiki are. And the first time we actually see these wings was, of course, I think 48 years ago. And God Valley was around 38 years ago. So we know for at least 10 years minimum that Shiki and Whitebeard were under Rox. So they do have a strong relationship. but shows how goated their captain is, Jaya. We all remember Jaya as the arc where Oda revealed Blackbeard. But in my opinion, I don't think this arc was just when Oda revealed Blackbeard. I truly believe this is also the arc where Oda revealed Rox D Xebec. And the reason why I say this is because when Luffy and Zoro are interacting with Marshall D. Teach, and Nami says, "Who's that guy?" They say, "No, it's not one guy. It's they," pretty much saying there's multiple. Now, a lot of people allude to this being mentioning Von Augur, Jesus Burgess, and Doc Q, where they had interactions or showings of the story before Blackbeard was revealed. But no, I don't think that is, because it was too vague. Like, if that was the case, there would have been hints to that. I think, honestly, when they say they're talking about Blackbeard having more than one entity in them. Like, Zoro and Luffy had dormant haki, so they can sense there's been more than one guy in Blackbeard. And that other guy is Rox. I think Rox D Xebec was revealed in this moment on Jaya. So yeah, this character was definitely not a random character that was revealed post time skip. There is a lot of built-in lore. Like, Blackbeard is Rox. Like, if you want to think of Rox's lore, look at Blackbeard. The same way how, well, Rox is kind of Blackbeard. Like, what things that Blackbeard does will be tied to Rox. His Saber of Xebec ship. There's so many things I could talk about, guys. Just look at the moment where Ace wanted to go and get revenge for Blackbeard killing Thatch and stealing the Yami Yami no Mi. And what does Whitebeard say? Whitebeard, who has an iron rule of you can't kill each other crewmates. Whitebeard, who knows Marshall D. Teach for so many years. Like, Teach was there when Whitebeard was fighting Roger before Roger became Pirate King. Like, Marshall D. Teach is an OG Blackbeard pirate. He's not of course on the same level of OG as like Marco and the rest of the guys, like Jozu, I believe. Well, I know Marco and the guys who were at Wano, like, those are the OGs of Whitebeard's crew. But he's still an early Whitebeard crew member. He joined as a kid, and this guy is insanely powerful than people actually know, because when he fought Ace, he actually almost broke Ace's neck with one punch. Like, Blackbeard's physical strength is underrated. But the reason why I want to mention Whitebeard is because Whitebeard tells Ace, "No, I have a bad feeling about this. Don't go and actually try to get Ace." And of course, Shanks tries to preach to Whitebeard about don't let Ace fight Blackbeard. But of course, Whitebeard's probably thinking, I already told Ace I have a bad feeling, don't go. The Whitebeard, of course, and Shanks got into their Kankasaki clash. All I'm trying to say is maybe Whitebeard definitely already knew that Rox was the father of Blackbeard, and that's why he wanted Ace to go, and knowing that Ace is the son of Roger. And we know that Whitebeard had this rule of a son doesn't actually bear the sins of a father. So it would make sense why he would take in Marshall D. Teach, a known orphan, because now we know why he was an orphan. His father was literally killed right when he was born on God Valley. Now, speaking of Shanks, I think this is a really good point to speak about. What I'm talking about is when Shanks actually fought Blackbeard. Blackbeard was able to scar Shanks. He left 3 claws in his eye. And I'll be honest with you, we all know that Rox D Xebec has a scar on his eye too as well. But that's not what I'm talking about. Blackbeard shouldn't have been strong enough to actually scar Shanks, in my opinion, back then, because Shanks was the child of destiny. He was the phenom. Like, Shanks is not even a Delph Fruit user, and Blackbeard didn't even have any Delph Fruit. So how was, of course, Blackbeard able to do this? Well, I think the only way is if he had someone inside of him that was on the level of Prime Roger, of Prime Whitebeard, and that's Rox D Xebec. I think Rox D Xebec is the actual one who scarred Shanks, and that is why Shanks has always been eerie of Blackbeard. He knows that Blackbeard has an innate power in him that goes beyond even the likes of Prime Roger and Prime Whitebeard. It's because it's Prime Rox D Xebec in Blackbeard. And Luffy with his Nika and his Kankasaki coding, people are already gassing like, yo, Blackbeard is cooked. How is he going up against Joy Boy's reincarnation? Well, no, Blackbeard is not truly cooked because he has the Gurgur no Mi, the Yami Yami no Mi, and he has Rox D Xebec inside of him. The guy who was Roger's greatest rival. That's going to be now a tough matchup for Luffy, who we all know Luffy is, of course, Nika. I also want to mention Marco. Like, when, of course, Blackbeard did eat the Yami Yami no Mi, Marco does mention that Blackbeard has a strange body. So I think the fact that Zoro and Luffy pre-time skip knew that Blackbeard was not more than one people, I think Marco saying he has a strange body, I think these hockey users like Marco and Whitebeard did sense that Blackbeard was more than one entity, but I don't think they questioned it because Blackbeard never revealed which entity lies within him. I think they know Blackbeard's body's different, and that's the reason why he said that can explain why Blackbeard actually has 2 Delph Fruits. It would make sense. One man cannot have a Delph Fruit. This is the first time in history that a man has 2 Delta Fruits. And we're talking about Void Century, we're talking about the First World. We saw that One Piece mural. No one has ever had 2 Delta Fruits. The Gorsia are a very good source when they said that. So I believe that there's actually been no man in history that has eaten 2 Delta Fruits, because I believe the Yami Yami no Mi was not eaten by Blackbeard. I think it was actually eaten by Rox D Xebec. Yes, I think the darkness is with Rox D Xebec, and the Gurgur no Mi is with Blackbeard. And those 2 entities with those 2 Delta Fruits, it just would make an interesting plot point. Then the fact that he never sleeps. Think about this, guys. We're humans, guys. We usually want to get 8 hours of sleep, but we cannot go 24 hours and not sleeping because our body just won't let us. So the fact that Blackbeard never sleeps, it's not the fact that he's going weeks without sleeping. Like, we know Oda has a really tough sleep schedule too as well. He sleeps like hours, 1-2 hours, then wakes up and goes to work. But no, that's still more better because at least you're sleeping. Blackbeard never sleeps his entire life. How is that possible? The only way that's possible is because every time he sleeps, it's kind of the Hakuba effect in a sense with Cavendish. Every time he sleeps, he becomes a different personality, so he can never sleep. And that's why Blackbeard has sped run everything in the amount of time he's done. Like, he's been waiting patiently under Whitebeard, but when it was time to actually do his plan, the same, because Blackbeard kind of started his pirate journey the same exact time as Luffy, but because he was planning and waiting, and the fact that he has more than one entity and he never sleeps, we all know no sleep means higher the production, higher the fast speed run to get to the point where you have to get to. That's why he became a Yonko so fast. He got so much power so fast, a strong crew. He is constantly in thinking because he has more than one entity in him, so he doesn't need sleep, guys. Technically, I think Marshall DT does sleep, but Rox D Xebec just wakes up when he does sleep. And yeah, Cavendish and Hakuba is scary, but imagine Blackbeard going to sleep and waking up as Rox D Xebec. That's even scarier. And of course, there's also Saturn and Devon's, Katarina Devon's conversation, where they mention the bloodline of Blackbeard is special. Now, of course, everyone was thinking maybe not Rox is what they're talking about, but maybe Joy Boy's era, maybe someone that's related to Imu and Joy Boy, or maybe the original Marshall D. But now that we know that Rox is the father, Katarina Devon, of course, being a legendary pirate, of course, and Blackbeard probably definitely told his crew about his connection to Rox D Xebec. Of course, his ship is a Xebec pirate island. Like, there's a lot of hints to it. And Saturn, knowing that, of course, Saturn was on God Valley when Rox D Xebec went crazy. That is pretty cool to see that there's guys in the story that know about Rox D Xebec's ties to Blackbeard. Now, do they know that Rox D Xebec lives in Blackbeard? I disagree. I don't think that they know that. I think that's going to be the plot twist to put Blackbeard in the same levels, because Blackbeard needs that Rox D Xebec plot twist to put him on the same level as Nika and Imu, who already have the destiny of Void Century and the First World, guys. So definitely, I think there's only one other character other than Blackbeard, Luffy, and Imu that's going to be a part of this destiny that goes back into the mural. And I believe it's Loki, of course, because Loki has the legendary fruit, the serpent fruit. So yeah, it's going to be cool how Blackbeard is going to be in this crazy race when it comes to the end game of One Piece. Yo, he finally has something to put him in that insane level. I thought the Yami Yami no Mi Gurgur no Mi was cool and all to make him a Yonko level character and whatnot, but when it comes to that final race, you need to be beyond Yonko level. You need to be Pirate King level. And I can't wait to see what Blackbeard has in store with that Rox power. I also thought it was cool how Rox and Roger's beef actually translates into Ace and Blackbeard on Banero Island. The fact that now when we reread One Piece, guys, when we go back to reread One Piece and we see Blackbeard versus Ace, we're not just thinking, oh, this is going to be a catastrophic event that's going to trigger Marineford, and the Marineford, of course, is going to trigger post-time skip. No, we're thinking, no, this is the exact bloodline of Rox and Roger on God Valley happening on Banero Island. And that Mary no Mi and that darkness fruit, I don't believe Rox had a Delta fruit. I don't think Roger had a Delta fruit, but I think that's what their entity were. I think Roger was the fiery type and Rox was the dark type, and they went at it in the Willa D. And if that happened, if Roger and Rox happened, 2 Willa Ds clashing. If Blackbeard and Ace happened, 2 Willa Ds clashing. And if Blackbeard and Luffy happened, 2 Willa Ds clashing. Who's from you to tell me that during the Void Century, 2 Willa Ds didn't clash as well? How does Joy Boy lose when he has so much going for him? I don't think it was Imu who actually, I think there was another Willa D member that got in the way of Joy Boy actually succeeding. And that, of course, caused the Void Century and the world government to dominate. Now, of course, maybe this Willa D member has ties to Marshall D or Rox D. Who knows? But I'm just giving my thoughts. And by Kaido putting Rox in his top 5, when it comes to Whitebeard, Roger, Odin, and Shanks. Honestly, I think Kado technically just put Blackbeard in his top 5. Yes, I do think that he technically put Blackbeard in his top 5 because his former captain is living in Blackbeard. So that top 5 is getting more and more interesting when it comes to conversation and debates. Obviously power scaling, but I think more so significant in the story. Like Kado mentioned those guys who were able to fight him. If Rox is that strong and he lives in Blackbeard, what will Blackbeard do against Luffy and Imu? It's gonna be insane. So yeah, as you guys can get the hint, I believe Rox lives within Blackbeard, and that's the reason why Blackbeard wants to become king of the world. It's a title that Xebec wanted as well. I think that's also the reason why his island, Pirate Island, is there. His ship is Xebec. There's a lot of connection, all while Blackbeard being an historian as well. He knows the history of his father. And that's why I believe Oda will reveal now Rox D Xebec will be the actual one to kill Shanks through Tej instead of Blackbeard, and get his actual revenge on the Child of Destiny, who's connected to Roger, who's connected to Garling. But I also see Imu versus Rox Part 2 happening through Blackbeard, because you have to remember that Rox D Xebec told Imu that I will be back, and I think he will be back through Blackbeard. And Blackbeard, obviously Imu had Blackbeard's poster with Luffy, with Vivi, with Shirahoshi. Shirahoshi's connected to the ancient weapon Poseidon that goes all the way back to the Void Century. Vivi's connected to Lily, who Imu's obsessed with. Luffy's connected to Nika, the Straw Hat, Joy Boy. And of course, Blackbeard is connected to Rox D Xebec, the man who went all the way to the Flower Room, the only man to ever do that and actually confront Imu. But Rox knew he wasn't strong enough yet, 56 years ago. So it took him 38 years ago to actually start his plan. So I wonder how strong he was, because I believe 18 years later is where he actually goes on God Valley. So 18 years before Rox was on God Valley, he was able to kill an admiral. That's all you need to know about how strong Rox is, and how strong was he on God Valley. Like, he definitely got stronger in those 18 years. So definitely gonna say the God Valley flashback just got more and more hype, if I'm being honest. But tell me your guys' thoughts in the comment section. I love reading you guys' support you guys been doing these videos lately. And yes, this is a Rox video I had to drop, yo. I have to drop the lore of Rox and Blackbeard and how it's gonna be impactful in the One Piece story, guys.